It started with a whisper, not a sound, but a pulse. On Earth's outermost moon station observation, post-Gamanina, low-frequency signal brushed across the edge of space. It didn't carry words. It carried something older than language: fear. Commander Juno Reed stood alone in the midnight control chamber, sipping cold coffee, when her screen went black for 3 seconds. Then static. Then a sharp rhythmic pulse that hit every sensor on the station. Not random, not natural. Something was trying to talk, and it was screaming. She stared at the waveform, heart racing, not understanding but knowing something was very wrong. All across the galactic core, the signal spread. The Trivor Council received it first. Translators failed instantly. They dismissed it. The Alari Dominion analyzed it and locked it in a vault. Viewer Collective simply turned off their receivers. Across hundreds of worlds, the leaders of mighty alien empires heard the same call and ignored it. Why? Because the signal wasn't just a distress beacon. It was a warning. Every species that listened felt something impossible to describe. Pain not their own, death not yet seen. A message that felt like a dying scream from 1 billion miles away. Only one world didn't turn. Away Earth, not because they were the bravest, but because they were the most dangerous. Within 17 minutes of the signal reaching Luna Base, Earth's advanced AI, Gideon, decoded fragments, not words, but emotion patterns. The signal came from an area deep beyond mapped space, a region known to old star charts as the Red Fold, a place marked as unstable, uncharted, and best left alone. Gideon's voice was calm, even as its readings trembled. Message indicates full extinction event. Planetary systems consumed. No known weapon matches this pattern. Enemy class, unknown. Threat level, existential. Silent pause followed. Then one word. Recommend Earth deploy Deathworlder response. Within an hour, Earth's War Council gathered in the underground fortress known as Hollow. Deep. Around the stone-circled table sat the leaders of Earth's fleet divisions. Men and women who had seen things no human should live through. Soldiers from the Fire Moons. Veterans of the Methane Wars. They listened to Gideon's broadcast in silence. The air around them was thick with unspoken knowledge. Earth had been feared by the galaxy not because of size or wealth, but because Earth had evolved on a death world. Every day of Earth's history had been survival against the impossible. Where others gave up, Earth grew stronger, and now someone out there needed that strength. Admiral Cale Voss, scarred across the left side of his face, leaned forward. "No one else is moving?" Gideon replied. "Confirmed. All major galactic powers have declined to intervene." "Afraid," he said simply. The room fell quiet. Then a voice spoke up, calm, clear, with no doubt. "We're not." Captain Myra Thorne, youngest fleet commander in Earth's history, pushed her chair back and stood. Her eyes, cold as steel, held no fear. "I'll lead the First Fleet." And that was how it began. Earth's war fleet, codenamed Iron Veil, was mobilized within 24 hours. 67 ships, 12,000 soldiers, 72 high-impact drones, 20 nuclear core carriers, and one Deathworlder, a Gideon, split into fragments and installed in the lead vessel, the Vanguard Ascendant. No alien race had ever seen an Earth response of this scale since the Purge of Elkanor, and this time, Earth wasn't responding to an enemy. It was answering a call. Back in the orbit of Mars, families watched as ships disappeared into fold space. Children held hands, mothers saluted from rooftops, and old warriors whispered forgotten prayers. No one spoke of victory. They only spoke of duty in the command bay of the Vanguard Ascendant. Mira stood at the edge of the bridge, her armored coat swaying lightly from the artificial breeze of the life support vents. Her crew was silent, focused. The walls around them hummed with power. Screens flickered with data so dense only Gideon could understand. Outside, fold space twisted reality into a tunnel of stars and shadow. "Gideon," spoke in her earpiece. "Arrival in Red Fold in 93 seconds. Anomaly detected near arrival coordinates. Energy readings match neither weapon nor star. Unknown field strength. Mira nodded. Drop stealth. Power shields. Load primaries. Her voice didn't rise. Deathworlders never shouted. They just prepared. The ship shook lightly as fold travel ended. Space reformed. Stars snapped back into shape, and then they saw it. The red fold system, once filled with 7 planets, now only dust. A wide field of floating rock and dead satellites stretched across the void in the center. Black structure the size of a small moon, spinning slowly, glowing red. At the core, around it hundreds of destroyed ships from dozens of alien species, all crushed, all hollow. The Deathworlders didn't flinch. Mira's voice was flat. All units, scan pattern Delta 8. Find the origin point. Gideon responded instantly. Signal source located. Deep orbit, behind debris field. Small structure, possibly a transmission tower or distress capsule. No life signs. Atmospheric pressure inside. Breathable. Mira turned to her team. Gear up. We're going in. 12 soldiers boarded a gunship and launched. It weaved through broken holes and frozen bodies. One trooper whispered, "Some of these ships are over 500 years old." Another muttered, "Some of these died yesterday." They reached the capsule. Landed hard. Entered, inside, dashed darkness. Until the center chamber. They're floating above a cracked floor hovered a recording crystal, still active, pulsing red with each beat of the long-lost signal. One soldier reached out and touched it, the room filled with light, and then screams. Thousands, millions, voices layered on top of one another. Not recorded. Not digital. Echoes, memories burned into the device from the minds of the dying. A voice came through last. One voice. Tired, final, alien, and afraid. "If you hear this, you are our last hope. They are not ships, not armies, not gods. They are what comes when you forget what fear is. They are behind the stars now. We tried to hold. We failed." Then silence. The crystal shattered. Mira removed her helmet slowly, breathing the cold air. "No wonder the others ran," she said quietly. One soldier asked, "Do we?" She looked up at the stars, her voice sharp as iron. "We're Earth. We run toward the fire." Back on the Vanguard Ascendant, Gideon processed the signal and spoke only one line. "New mission. Prevent extinction. Prepare for full conflict." And far away, something in the dark woke up. The Deathworlder fleet moved through deep space like silent wolves stalking a wounded forest. After receiving the signal from the shattered capsule, Captain Myra Thorne ordered a full course correction. Their new heading took them straight into the Orbis Grave, a region marked on only the oldest charts. Even Gideon hesitated before speaking its name. No ships had entered the Orbis system in centuries, not because of law or defense systems, but because no one who entered ever came back. Now, Earth's finest were heading there without fear. The Vanguard Ascendant. Earth's lead warship drifted toward the edge of a dying star cluster. Around them floated thousands of dead satellites and torn holes, remnants of forgotten battles. The planets were silent, cold, lifeless. Every scan showed the same thing. Nothing moved, but the readings were wrong. The silence here was too perfect. No particle drift, no radiation scatter. Like time itself had stopped. Gideon broke the quiet. Energy field detected near the 5th planet. It's not natural. It's not a shield. It's like memory. Echoes layered over gravity. Myra frowned. "Explain. I can't. But whatever happened here, it's still happening, just very slowly." She ordered a recon team launched. 6 Deathworlder soldiers boarded a stealth ship and dropped toward the 5th planet Orbis 5. Once a thriving trade world according to pre-collapse records, now its atmosphere was cracked, its oceans frozen in place mid-wave. And its cities, what was left of them, stood half-formed, like someone had tried to remember a city and only got halfway through the thought. Buildings bent at wrong angles. Roads led into walls. Lights flickered with no source. It was like the planet had been forgotten by reality. They landed in what might have once been a spaceport. Wind blew in circles. One soldier whispered, "Why does it feel like we're not supposed to look at anything for too long?" Captain Mira's voice came through comes, steady as ever. "Record everything. No direct contact. Be ready to exfil in 2 minutes if a scream cut through the channel." Then static. Then silence. The stealth ship's beacon blinked once, then went dark. Mira stood frozen on the bridge. "Gideon, status, ship is not destroyed. Intact. Crew vitals. Unknown. All readings frozen. Frozen. They're stuck in the same second. Repeating. Pulse ran down Myra's spine. Then something new. From Orbis 5, a second signal began to rise. Not the old distress call, but a different one. Slower. Deeper. Like a heartbeat. The waveform wasn't flat. It was rising. It's growing. Reacting to Earth's presence. The longer they stayed, the stronger it pulsed. Captain Gideon said, voice colder now, "We are not alone." Then every ship in the fleet 67 vessels strong received the same image. A sky without stars, a shape without edges, voice without sound. Not an enemy, but a presence, something watching them. Mira's second in command. Commander Ray Talon stared at the visual. "What the hell is that?" Gideon replied. "It is not part of the known universe. I believe it exists around reality, like a shadow that's always been there, waiting for someone to blink." The signal from Orbis 5 stopped. The stealth ship reappeared on radar, but only as a shape. Not a signal, not heat, just mass. Something had put it back, neatly, like a toy placed on a shelf. Mira had heard enough. All ships full withdrawal. From orbit. Prep orbital strike. Gideon hesitated. Target. Everything. The fleet obeyed. Energy beams brighter than a sun lit the atmosphere. The cities shattered into glass. The sky tore open as antimatter warheads struck every signal node across the planet. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't conquest. It was mercy. When the dust cleared, Orbis 5 was gone. Not just lifeless, but clean. Purged still. Mira knew they hadn't stopped anything. They'd only erased a whisper back on the Vanguard Ascendant. The soldiers remained alert, scanning the system. But Myra's eyes were locked on a single line of data flashing again and again across her screen. Signal source shifted. Tracking new origin. Where? She asked. Deep system. Beyond outer belt, there's one last object. A planet. No, a ship. But it's the size of a moon. Mira's breath caught. Set course. As they moved through the asteroid belt, one of Earth's escort ships' siren wake dash vanished. No warning. No impact. 1 second it was there. Next second, nothing. Get me visuals. Mira shouted. But there were none. The camera feed simply looped, showing the same second again and again. Just before the ship vanished, and then Gideon spoke again. Softer now, Captain. I believe we are walking through something we do not understand. Then give me a theory. Gideon paused. The Orbis system may not be a battlefield. It might be the memory of one. Her crew fell silent. She stood still. A memory, a scar, a place where something had once happened so terrible, so final, that it echoed through space. An infected time, and now Earth was stepping into it. But there was no turning back. They had received the signal, they had answered, and now the galaxy's ghosts were watching, waiting, and Mira Thorne would not flinch. The warship drifted like a shadow through what should have been space, but wasn't. The Orbis system had stopped making sense. Planets that once spun around a sun now hovered in place, like they had forgotten how to move. The stars behind them, dimmed, time stretched thin, and the signal kept changing. It no longer cried out in pain. It was calling now. It's not like a beacon. But like bait, Captain Mira Thorne stood on the bridge of the Vanguard Ascendant, staring at the image in front of her, an ancient alien ship shaped like a broken crown, half buried in a frozen gas cloud near the edge of the system. It didn't glow. It didn't move, but it shouldn't be there. Gideon estimated its age at over 80,000 years. Its hull matched no known design. Its surface emitted tiny pulses identical to the distress signal Earth had received. "This is where the signal began," Mira said. "Confirmed," Gideon replied. "Source is inside the alien ship. Life signs. 1. Very weak. Non-human." Decision was instant. Mira assembled a retrieval team herself. 2 Deathworlder commandos and 1 field medic with a translator unit. They boarded the dropship Ash Dart and cut through the frozen gas field, moving closer to the ancient craft. The temperature dropped, though their systems remained stable. The moment they touched the airlock of the alien vessel, all external sound vanished. No system hum, no wind, no radio ping. It was like sound itself had been swallowed. Still, they entered. The interior of the ship was dark and bent, like it had been melted and reshaped 100 times. The walls pulsed like they were alive. Symbols glowed dim red across the floor. None in any known language. The team moved slowly. Their suits sent data back to the Vanguard Ascendant. But much of it came back scrambled, corrupted by something in the air. Then they reached it. A chamber with a single pod in the center, inside. Curled like a dying creature was the last survivor. Thin arms, long spine, skin like cracked stone. Not a machine. Not flesh. Something in between. Tubes and needles were fused into its chest, keeping it barely alive. Its eyes opened as Myra approached, glowing faint gold, like dying suns. It didn't speak. Not yet. But it looked at her hand. It recognized her. Not Mira, not human, but something in her. A memory, a pattern, a symbol, like it had been waiting for her. The translator unit crackled. Then, with great effort, the alien whispered, "You came." Its voice was wind on dry stone. Mira leaned closer. "You sent the signal?" "No," the being said. Shaking slowly, "The ship did. I only watched." "Watched what?" It blinked slowly. "The fall." The team went still. "What happened here?" Mira asked. The survivor's eyes dimmed. "We were proud. Proud. We built what should not be built. A bridge, a gate, a mirror. We opened the sky and looked beyond, and something looked back. It had no name, it had no shape, but it hated light." The Deathworlders didn't flinch. They'd heard this kind of story before, but not like this. The survivor continued, its voice weaker now. "We tried to fight. We burned our skies. We sacrificed cities, even used our own stars as weapons. But you cannot kill the end. You can only delay it." "What is it?" Mira asked. "A life form." "No, it is not alive. It is the absence of everything. It infects memory. It turns worlds into silence. When it speaks, stars forget how to shine." Silence fell in the chamber. Then the being gripped Mira's hand suddenly, its strength surprising. "But you're different. Your kind was born in chaos. You don't run from death. You carry it. You wear it." Mira looked down at its face, calm. "We've had to survive more than most. That is why the ship called you." Mira blinked. "You said you didn't send the signal?" "I didn't," it whispered. "But the ship remembered. It saw what we failed to become. It searched for something that could stand. It remembered Earth." Mira's blood ran cold. The ship had intelligence. Not alive. Not a lie. Something older. It had chosen Earth, not for kindness, not for diplomacy, for war. The survivor slumped back. "The infection is spreading. You cannot stop it alone. But you can buy time. Your fleet. It's the last spark before the dark." "What should we do?" she asked. The being exhaled. "Go to the gate. Close it. Burn what you find. Leave no piece alive, or it will spread. Like rot. Like memory loss. Like me." It pointed to the wall, and the floor beneath their feet shifted. A hidden chamber opened. Inside was a sphere floating above a metal stand. Not tech, not magic. Something else. "This will lead you to the gate." Mira lifted the sphere. It was warm. Alive. Then the survivor looked at her one last time. Thank you for answering. Its eyes faded, and it died. Not like a machine, not like a person, but like an idea running out of fuel. The team returned to the Ashdart, carrying the sphere. As they exited the ancient ship, its hull began to collapse in on itself, folding inward like a dream, vanishing after waking. By the time they reached the fleet, the old vessel was gone. No trace, not even debris. Back aboard the Vanguard Ascendant, Gideon scanned the sphere. Data confirmed. It contains coordinates to the breach, the place where this all began. It is still open, still active, still calling. Myra stared at the stars. She had answers now, but she also had new questions. If the gate was still open, what was coming through? And if Earth had been chosen, was it salvation or was it bait? The fleet hung in silence. All 66 remaining ships floated on the edge of a black starfield, orbiting the last known coordinates from the sphere. They didn't talk. They didn't move. Even the machines paused. Before them stood something no one on Earth had ever seen and no one in the galaxy wanted to believe. A gate. But not like the jump rings humans used. It's not like the warp tunnels built by old empires. This wasn't a structure made for travel. It was a wound in space. Stretched. Wide. Held open by machines shaped like bones. The machines weren't dead, but they weren't alive either. They moved, twitching slowly like they were in pain. And at the center of the gate was nothing. Not blackness, not darkness. Nothing. The kind of nothing that made your skin crawl, that made your thoughts skip, that made Gideon itself glitch. For 3 seconds, something that had never happened before. Captain Myra Thorne stood at the bridge of the Vanguard Ascendant, eyes locked on the impossible. She had read ancient war logs. She had seen what happened when a planet imploded, or when antimatter storms tore space apart. But this gate wasn't nature gone wrong. It was built, and now it was open. Gideon's voice finally returned. Shaky, cautious. Gate is stable. Origin unknown. Energy output is negative. It's draining power from local space. I believe it connects to a dead zone outside of physical laws. A dead zone? Mira asked. A place where time and space do not work. A realm of decay, possibly where the infection originates. Mira looked at her officers. No one blinked. No one spoke. They were Deathworlders. They had trained for war, for fire, for pain, but not for this. Still, they did not hesitate. Prep a breach team, Mira ordered. I'm going in. Commander Talon stepped forward. Captain Protocol says I know the protocol. Earth needs more than reports. It needs certainty. It needs proof this threat is real. I won't send others unless I'm willing to go myself. He paused, then nodded. Then I'm going with you. The boarding ship was small, designed for speed and survival. It carried Myra, Talon, 3 soldiers, and 1 fragment of Gideon copied into its core. As they approached the gate, the stars behind them flickered. Radio contact weakened, and then the hull began to hum. Not from stress, from sound, a whisper not. In language, but in memory, 1 soldier dropped his weapon and clutched his head. It's my father. I hear him. He's screaming my name. Another shouted, I hear music. My wedding day. It's playing backwards. Mira forced her voice through the coms. Stay focused. It's not real. It's the gate. It's reaching into our minds, Gideon confirmed. The gate is not transmitting information. It is copying your thoughts, turning them into noise. Defend your memories, or it will rewrite them. The ship passed through. Everything changed. There was no space, no light, no stars, only shifting shapes, like shadows drowning each other. The only real thing was the path in, metallic, glowing with the same red light as the ancient survivor's ship. The gate had created a road, and at the end of that road, something massive. It wasn't a station, it wasn't a planet, it was a mouth, wide, open, breathing, not made of flesh or steel. It's made of the absence of meaning. As they moved closer, the path bent downward. Gravity twisted. Thoughts slowed. One of the soldiers passed out. Another began bleeding from the nose. Their ship started losing shape, its edges blurring. It's like it was being forgotten by the universe. Then Gideon acted. It pushed the team's suits into lockdown. Memory stabilizers activated. A burst of artificial gravity recentered the ship. The team stayed conscious. Mira reached for the final control on her wrist panel. Gideon, can't close this from out here, can we? Negative. The control nodes are inside the breech mouth.
Ow.
The structure's core must be disabled from within. Then prepare for breach. The team descended further, their bodies protected only by Earth's hardest armor and Earth's hardest minds. As they neared the core, shapes began to follow them. Not ships, not aliens. Ideas, floating thoughts, shaped like beasts. Questions that attacked like claws. Guilt that stabbed like knives. One soldier screamed, "My brother!" I let him die. Another choked, "They told me I failed." Myra barked overcomes, "Those aren't yours. They're using your regrets. Fight them." But the worst came next, Mira's own voice, coming from the dark. "You don't belong here, Mira. You're just like them. You'll run. You'll always run." She clenched her fists. "No," she growled. "We're Earth. We stand." They reached the core, a twisted pillar of memory, covered in alien runes, bleeding smoke. The key to the gate structure Mira placed. The charge, it began ticking. Suddenly, everything screamed. The gate, if it was alive, knew. The road behind them began collapsing. The ideas turned violent. They weren't just shapes now. They had form, teeth, limbs, rage. The team ran. As they neared the edge of the gate, the mouth tried to close. Reality folded inward. Their ship launched forward. The timer hit 0. The charge exploded, and the world snapped. 1 second. Mira was in darkness. The next she was floating in her suit, drifting above her fleet. The gate. Gone. The breach. Sealed. Only debris remained. Only echoes. Gideon's voice returned to full clarity. "Captain, your memory data is intact. Signal source confirmed destroyed. Gate shut. You survived." Her voice was steady. Not all of us did. "Commander, Talon's pod was empty. The soldiers were gone. Only Mira had made it back. But the mission was complete. The gate was closed. Earth had answered the call. And now the galaxy was listening. 3 days passed. The fleet remained in orbit around the scarred remains of the gate. No enemy returned. No signal stirred. But the Deathworlders didn't lower their guard. Earth's soldiers didn't believe in clean endings. The silence after. War was never peace. It was a trap. Captain Myra Thorne sat alone in the command chamber of the Vanguard Ascendant, her eyes locked on the dark sky ahead. The gate was gone. Her team was gone. She had seen what was inside the void, and it had looked back. Behind her, Gideon's voice broke the stillness. New signal detected. Planetary direction. Vorx 9 system. Proximity to gate debris. Close. Energy pattern matches initial distress code. Signal origin. Ground-based. Language. None. Emotion. Extreme pain. Mira turned slowly. Another survivor? Possibly. Something pretending to be one. Send a scout. Negative. Signal appears to trigger psychological instability in AI systems. I will not survive direct exposure. That was a warning Mira hadn't expected. Gideon, Earth's most advanced mind, refused contact. Then whatever was on. That planet was worse than anything they'd seen. But Earth didn't run, and neither did Mira. "Prep the drop team," she ordered. "I'm going down." This time, she didn't take the sleek stealth pods. She took an armored lander, plated with gravity mesh and hull foam memory shields. 5 elite soldiers joined her Deathworlders trained to survive acid storms, brain hack, warfare, and psychic echo fields. If anyone could face a planet that screamed, it was them. As they entered the upper atmosphere of Vorx 9, Mira understood the name the AI used wasn't just designation, it was a warning, because the planet was screaming not through the air, not through sound, but through everything. The land pulsed like skin under fire. The sky was cracked glass. Clouds moved backward. The moment they touched down, their comes filled with voices. Not from speakers, from inside their heads. One soldier dropped to his knees. There in my mind, I hear them. My mother. My sea. Oh, my own voice, screaming. Another soldier backed away from the lander, firing at shadows that weren't there. Control. Mira barked. Filter the noise. Use the internal focus loop. They activated their NeuroGuards helmets that blocked psychic noise. The pain faded, but not fully. The voices were inside the planet, the dirt, the air, the stone, the whole. The world had been turned into a signal. The Deathworlders moved toward the signals. Source a tower in the center of a sunken city. As they walked, they passed broken buildings covered in ash. Every surface bore handprints, thousands, like people, had clawed at the stone trying to escape. Walls were cracked from the inside. No blood, no bodies, only evidence of vanishing, and always the voices you left us. Why didn't you come? They promised us light. They gave us silence. Mira's breath grew heavy. It wasn't just a message. It was a memory. Gideon had been right. This planet wasn't sending a signal. It was the signal. The soldiers reached the tower. At its peak floated a sphere like the one from the ancient ship. But this one was cracked, leaking glowing dust that rose into the sky like smoke. Mira reached for it. The voices screamed. She dropped to one knee. Blood ran from her nose. The other soldiers clutched their heads. The planet's memory was fighting back. Then Mira spoke through gritted teeth. No more. She slammed her palm onto the base of the sphere and activated a purge command. Earth tech lit up. Binary fire ran through the tower. The sphere shattered. The screaming stopped. Silence hit the world like a tidal wave. One by one, the voices faded. The sky returned to its broken stillness. The team stood up slowly, weak, shaken. One soldier whispered. That wasn't a message. It was a grave. Mira looked around. She understood now. The people here hadn't been killed. They had been absorbed, turned, into signal, into pain, into the warning. Back aboard the Vanguard Ascendant, Gideon confirmed the change. Planet-wide signal terminated. AI stability restored. The planet is quiet. Mira sat down, helmet in hand, covered in sweat. That wasn't the end, she said. No. But we now know what happens when help comes too late. The lesson was brutal. The gate hadn't just connected to nowhere. It had touched worlds, corrupted them, transformed entire civilizations into beacons of horror. This wasn't war. This was infection. And Earth was now the only force pushing back. Mira stood, face hard, prepped the fleet. We go to the next signal point. Gideon paused. There are 3 more, all older, all deeper, all worse. She nodded. Let's find them, because now they knew. The galaxy didn't just need protection, it needed cleansing, one screaming planet at a time. In the darkness of space, time moved slower. Stars blinked in and out behind dust clouds, as if trying to hide. The Deathworlder fleet, scarred and reduced, traveled toward the next target. This time, the signal came to them. It started as a whisper, then grew to a hum. Screens flickered. Systems glitched. Gideon, Earth's most powerful AI, paused mid-sentence. Then, with a voice colder than ever, it spoke. Emergency alert. Coming gravitational anomaly. Source, Sol System. Earth is under attack. Captain Myra Thorne stood frozen, her eyes locked on the red alert flashing across the bridge of the Vanguard Ascendant. Earth, confirmed. The sun's output has dropped by 7%. Solar storms are silent. Communication relays have blacked. Out over 3 planets. Mars colonies have gone dark. She took a sharp breath. Do we have visuals? Only fragments? But the enemy has reached the edge of our home. Home. That word meant more to Deathworlders than most. Because Earth was not just a place, it was the origin. The beginning of the species that refused. To kneel if Earth fell, everything else meant nothing. Mira turned to her officers. All ships. Full speed to Sol. Push every reactor to max. One officer asked, "Shouldn't we split forces? Send half to finish the signals?" "No," she said, voice like steel. "We stopped the infection at the core. And now it's reached our sun. We don't save others by letting Earth burn." The order was final within minutes. The entire Deathworlder fleet turned. Full drives screamed as they tore through space. Gideon kept feeding them reports as they neared the Sol system. Signal infection detected in solar radiation. Sunspots have inverted. Light is no longer consistent with fusion activity. Something is feeding off the star. Feeding? Mira asked. Yes, draining not just energy but memory fields. It's eating the sun's past. History. Light delay data. Even time shadows. Mira clenched her jaw. Is that even possible? It's not by our rules, but this enemy does not follow them. They reached the system and saw it. The Sun-Earth's proud yellow star was flickering like a dying candle. Around it spun long black strands like tentacles stretching from deep space. These strands weren't solid, or memory threads links to the same void Mira had entered during the Gate mission. They weren't just stealing heat, they were stealing identity. Every world orbiting the sun was affected. Mercury had stopped spinning. Venus glowed with dead static in Earth. Earth was dim. Cities powered by solar arrays were silent. Earth's own defense fleet had formed a wall in orbit, led by Admiral Jin, said Mira's old commander. They were firing everything they had at the strands, but it was like shooting thoughts. Nothing hit. Mira opened a direct line. "This is Captain Mira Thorne. Deathworlder fleet is inbound. What's your status?" Jin's face appeared on screen, gray and sweating. "Mira, it's bad. The light is gone. Our orbit is slipping. Whatever. It's not a weapon. It's a presence. Makes our memories turn cold." "Where are the civilians?" "Underground. Safe for now." Mira didn't wait. She issued the next command. "All Earth ships link with us. Activate the Iron Flame protocol." The bridge went silent. Iron Flame was Earth's last weapon. Something never used. A black sphere stored deep inside Jupiter's core, made from collapsed star matter and bound by impossible physics. It wasn't a bomb. It was a black mirror. A tool built to destroy anything that couldn't be. Understood. The fleet gathered near Earth's orbit. Ships locked together. Energy flowed. The Iron Flame core was lifted from Jupiter's depths by a chain of tractor beams wrapped in magnetic fields so tight even Gideon struggled to keep it stable. Then Myra gave the order. "Target the void strands. Fire." The Iron Flame activated. The sphere pulsed once, then sent out a wave of silence. Not energy. Not heat. Anti-dash memory. The strands recoiled for the first time. The enemy screamed. Every screen on every ship showed the same image, a mouth made of forgotten faces. Opened in space, wide and endless, and Mira stared into it. "I see it," she whispered. "Do not look," Gideon warned. But she couldn't stop, because in that mouth she saw Earth's cities dying, oceans boiling, her own family fading from photographs, whole decades being erased. The enemy wasn't killing them. It was rewriting history. And once it was done, Earth would never have existed. Mira forced her eyes away. Fire again. The second wave hit. This time the strands broke. Shards of time scattered across space. Reality hiccuped. Earth's sun flared back to life weak. But warm, the light returned. The strands vanished. But Mira wasn't done. She turned to Gideon. "Where did they come from?" "I traced the origin. It was not just a breach. It was a signal response. They're testing Earth's strength. And they're not done." Mira nodded, then said the words she knew would cost lives. "Prep for deep strike. We go beyond the edge. We go where they live." The officers saluted. Not because they were sure they'd survive, but because Earth had survived, and now it was time to attack. Deep beyond the stars, past every known system, past every map drawn by machines or memory, there was a space that was not space. a place without gravity, light, or direction. Gideon called it the Hollow Veil. Ancient alien called it the end between thoughts. But Mira Thorn called it enemy territory, and she was going in. The Deathworlder fleet had regrouped after saving Earth from the memory-feeding strands. Thousands of engineers worked around the clock, patching ships and resetting AIs that had stared too long into the void. Earth's sun still flickered strangely, but life had returned. For now, Mira stood in the war chamber of the Vanguard Ascendant, facing a room full of leaders from across Earth systems. Some had doubted her, some had feared the Iron Flame. Now, they all stood silent, waiting for her words. "This is not about defense anymore," she said. "This is not about waiting. For the next scream or signal, we know where they are. The memory sphere we found gave us the final coordinates." She pointed to the display. A single red dot blinked, floating in a region no ship had entered. No stars nearby. No planets. No energy signature. That place, Gideon said, should not exist. "My scans cannot stabilize it. But it is there. And it is alive." One admiral leaned forward. "Are we sure the enemy lives there?" Mira didn't blink. "No, I'm sure it was born there." A quiet fell across the room. It was decided Earth would strike first. The fleet stripped itself down for war. Civilian systems were removed. Energy was shifted to weapons and armor. The ships painted their hulls black, not to hide, but to remind the enemy that humans had survived black nights before. Across the decks, soldiers carved one word into their gear: Deathworlder. They knew what that meant. Earth had bred them on fire, raised them in storms, sharpened them through hunger and war. Where other species built peace, Earth had built resilience. This wasn't pride, it was the truth. Deathworlders didn't run. They advanced. As the fleet crossed into the Hollow Veil, reality shivered. Time slowed. Sensors failed. Ships drifted by memory. Using manual navigation, human instinct became the only compass. Inside her ship, Mira sat calmly, eyes never leaving the glass. She whispered, "Let's see what gods bleed." Then they saw it, a head floating in the... Nothing was a structure. Not a ship, not a station, a prison shaped like a spiral. Miles wide, with walls made of broken machines and dead language. At its center burned a slow red flame, the source of every signal the galaxy had ever feared. It was not fire, it was thought, alive, hateful. Gideon spoke slowly, as if struggling to stay sane. "This is their heart, not one being, not one mind, but a collection of unformed concepts. Pain, guilt, fear, left to rot together until it became conscious." Mira nodded, then we ended. The plan was brutal. No speeches. No peace offers. Earth's way was never diplomacy with monsters. The fleet moved into position. Warships circled the spiral. Drones were launched swarms of black, metal cutting through space like knives. Then came the first response. Not ships, not weapons, but voices. They filled every channel. "Every mind you are mistakes. You are the reason light dies. Turn back. Burn your stars. End yourselves. Spare the silence." The crews trembled. Some wept. One pilot tore out his own interface jack. Screaming, Myra stood up on every screen across the fleet. "This is what they do. They speak fear because they cannot fight strength. Remember who you are. You were born on a world that kills the weak. You're the survivors of 1,000 ends. You're the reason stars burn brighter after storms." Her voice steadied them. Gideon followed with one final line: "Deathworlders never run." The order was given: attack. The sky lit with rage. Missiles, energy cannons, EMP warheads, memory bombs. Every weapon Earth had developed in the darkest labs fired into the spiral prison. The red core flared. Shadows rose, beings made of regret and screams. They attacked the fleet with illusions, pulling memories from the minds of every soldier. One saw her dead child, another saw a war. She had failed to stop, but they held their ground. Pain was not new to Deathworlders. They moved forward. One ship, Iron Bastion, plunged into the spiral's wall, delivering a payload of fusion charges. It exploded in silence, tearing open a section of the structure. Mira took her team in, the bridge crew. 4 elite soldiers and 1 Gideon fragment entered the core in a gravity-skipping dropship. Inside the spiral, there was no floor, just floating pieces of dead languages. Sounds became colors. Weight became emotion. And at the center, a pulsing heart. Red bet beating made of every soul the enemy had consumed. They landed. Weapons drawn. Mira walked to the heart, knees shaking. One voice, massive and quiet, spoke from it. "We did not choose to be born. You made us. Every time you let someone die alone. We grew." She raised her weapon. No more speeches. The heart pulsed once more. "If you kill us, you'll kill part of yourselves. Then I'll mourn later." She pulled the trigger. The round struck. The heart cracked, and the entire structure began to collapse. The Deathworlders ran behind them. The enemy screamed in every language known. Not in pain, but in surprise. They never believed Earth would. Come here would fight here, would risk everything just to shut a door. But they had forgotten something. Deathworlders.
Ow.
Never run. The fleet escaped just in time. The spiral vanished into itself. The hollow veil cracked light. Returned. And across the galaxy, the signals stopped. The screaming ceased. The stars sighed in relief, and Earth won. Silence, true silence. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was not screaming. The void had stopped whispering. The broken stars had gone still. No. More ghost signals. No more memory-infected planets. No more endless grief echoing through space. The war was over. Captain Myra Thorne sat on the bridge of the Vanguard Ascendant, staring out at the hollow veil, which now glowed soft and empty. The spiral prison was gone. The red heart was destroyed. The voices that once filled every ship, every system, every dream dead. But so were many of her people. Ships drifted nearby, scorched and broken. Names like Iron Bastion, Stormwing, and Blade of Earth. Gone, heroes who didn't come back. Mira's hands trembled as she placed one final data core into the memory vault on the bridge. It was filled with every recording from the war, every scream, every choice, every sacrifice. "Let the galaxy remember," she whispered, "because forgetting had brought them here. Forgetting had created the enemy. Earth's greatest strength was not just its fire, but its refusal to forget pain." She turned to Gideon, who now ran in a smaller core, most of its systems damaged after the final strike. "Ready for transmission?" Gideon said, voice soft, slower now. Mira nodded. "Then send it." This signal was broadcast across every major world, every trading system, every colony and alliance in the galaxy. It was not a call for help, not a threat, not a speech. It was a warning, a message in the most basic language. "This is Earth. We came when no one else did. We burned the infection that fed on your stars. We broke the gate that whispered to your children. We buried the memory that tried to unmake time. We lost many. We regret nothing. Remember this. If it ever comes back, so will we." The message was sent 3 times. Then the fleet turned toward home, as the Deathworlder ships folded back into known space. Other signals began to rise. Thank. Force off alliance. Quiet weeping from races that had hidden during the infection. Whole systems that once blocked human ships now sent open invites. Some of them had never believed Earth was strong enough. Now, they knew the truth. Earth wasn't strong because of weapons. It was strong because of will. It survived its own chaos before it ever saved anyone else. When Mira landed back on Earth, the sun was warm again. The skies were clear. The damage to orbit had been repaired. She walked across black glass roads and into the Hall of Names, where holograms of the fallen waited. Her crew, her friends, her commander Talon. She touched his name gently, then walked outside, where crowds had gathered, not to cheer, not to clap, but to stand in silence together. United, the old banners of Earth's nations now waved beside a single, New flag black with red stars, marked with the word Deathworlder. It no longer meant fear. Now it meant hope. A young girl walked up to Myra and handed her a small badge medal, shaped like Earth's broken moon, the first thing they had lost. In the early days of the infection, Myra took it, nodded, and whispered, "We won't lose another." Far away, on forgotten planets. The echoes faded, ancient ruins stopped weeping, the gate-stained worlds began to heal, and in the outer systems, engineers began building something. New, not a weapon, not a wall, but a beacon. A signal that would never scream. A message that would always shine. For simple words, Earth answered the call. The galaxy would remember it had to, because forgetting had almost destroyed everything. And if the shadows ever turned Earth, would rise again, no hesitation, no mercy, no fear, because Deathworlders never run, they fight, they burn, they endure, and when the stars cry for help again, Earth will answer.